Max Holloway just knocked out the Korean Zombie in the third round, and you heard that correctly. He KO'd the old man Korean Zombie. Anthony Smith is back in the mix. Giga Chikadze, he didn't impress me that much. Guys, I really enjoyed the UFC Singapore card. It's still morning here on the East Coast, and I have a lot of energy, so I'm going to get right into it. Make sure to check the timestamps in the description. And without further ado, let's get into the main event, guys. I tried to do everything in my power to potentially jinx this fight by creating a short film, praying to the MMA gods that it wouldn't be so violent. I said that Max Holloway was going to have to slip on a banana peel to lose this fight. And I see people that are saying that, dude, he went out the way he should have went out. He went out a warrior. Listen, TKZ went out on his shield. A live by the sword, die by the sword mentality. I honestly was kind of laughing after the finish because I haven't seen anyone just straight up in a very high stakes matchup against a high level opponent just start swinging for the bleachers, 100% imposing his will more than anyone else in UFC history, but ultimately getting caught by the right hand of Max Holloway and then face planted into the octagon. I'm going to show you guys my reaction to the finish and then we'll get to it. TKZ is just slugging at this point. He's going to lose a slugging battle with Max every time. He's going for the TKO on Max. He's straight up running at Max Holloway. Holloway's going to... Oh! No! Woo! Holloway gets it done. Let's go! What is he doing? He just got slumped out. He just got knocked out by Max. TKZ fans in my chat saying he was winning that fight. Grow up. Grow up. This was a disgusting fight. He got slumped on his face in the second round, and he got slumped out. What are you doing trying to go at Max Holloway like that? That's crazy to see Holloway get a KO like that as well. How does he go out like that? That's something straight out of a comic book. I've never seen a fighter straight up try to impose their will that hard. But guys, like, listen, TKZ, respect to him. All right, he went out a warrior, 100%. This is not a beautiful way to go out. He did not have to get KO'd tonight if he had just fought Bryce Mitchell. And if you're going to sit here and say, who cares? You're too soft for the sport. I give a fuck. Because, listen, you're setting the precedent of we are taking our old legends that have already given everything they have to the sport, that have gotten KO'd, that have gotten finished, that have given us wars, that have taken damage, that have left it all in the octagon. And you're saying, fuck it. Let's run up the Max Holloway highlight reel. Let's run that shit up. And that's what you're using them as. TKZ was just put in the octagon as a sacrificial lamb for a 5-second Max Holloway highlight reel that's going to be playing every time Max Holloway walks out. You know what I mean? And I just don't think that it was necessarily worth it. Like, you as fans can look at that as a little snippet clip on the screen. At the end of the day, there's some serious consequences to that KO. And I'm not someone that's opposed to seeing KOs. I love seeing KOs. I just want there to be fair fights. I also want to respect the legends of the game and give them fights that they're not going to 100% get decimated in. That's the fucking difference. I don't need to see the Korean Zombie get smoked and decimated, okay? You could have had him go out there slugging for the fences in front of Dan Ige again, for goodness sakes. You could have had him go out there slugging for the fences against Bryce Mitchell. But it has to be Holloway, and you can't win that battle in the pocket with Max Holloway. And guys, let me just mention this again when it comes to Max Holloway. He couldn't have went out there and took it easy on him. Oh, Max did him dirty. Max has that Hawaiian rage he wanted to take out this week because of what was going on. He had that righteous rage. And guess who he could legally take it out on? The Korean Zombie. And guess what else? Max Holloway isn't getting a title shot anytime soon. He didn't have the best performance against Arnold Allen, and that's because Arnold Allen's pretty good. He still clearly won that fight, but there weren't, many highlights from it. It wasn't a performance that boosted his stock up that much. He needed to go out there and have a domination performance in order to rejuvenate his career and solidify himself once again as a big name. We talk about big names. Sean O'Malley doesn't even have 600,000 views on his Octagon interview from his win. To put that in perspective, Aljamain Sterling has 1.2 million views on his Octagon loss interview. I guarantee you Holloway, especially with what's going on in Hawaii, is going to have close to 1 million. Also, given the fact that it's Korean Zombie retirement fight, Holloway just again solidified himself as a bigger star. That's what the UFC wanted. The UFC is really good at doing business. Let me just put that out of the way. The UFC knows what they're doing. They're good at rejuvenating that Max Holloway career. And they could have just done it with a guy like Brian Ortega, and it would have been a little bit more impressive. Would we have seen Max Holloway chin Brian Ortega? Probably not. But we probably would have seen him style on him. They knew that it was more of a guarantee to get Max Holloway highlights than it would have been for Max Holloway and Brian Ortega. You know what I mean? I think that's ultimately what it was. It was more of a guarantee. The UFC wanted something that was 100% bulletproof going to happen. We need the Korean Zombie to get absolutely smoked so we can run up these highlights. Because if Ortega's in there, there's a chance Ortega can be a little bit stubborn this time. He could be a little bit improved, and maybe it's the same Max Holloway, and we're not going to get the same amount of highlights. And then Holloway's stock isn't going to be increased when we need more stars. And if we're going to sit here hyping up Max Holloway, bro, he did what he needed to do. That's what Max Holloway should look like if he still is Max Holloway and not declining against an old, washed-up TKZ. The first round was competitive, but in the second round, Holloway 10-8'd him, dropped him, sank him and face-planted him to the canvas like it was Aljamain Sterling last week, and then hopped on a submission attempt and almost got that. I don't even know how TKZ survived it. During the submission attempt, I was saying this could be his chance to go out without taking too much damage. And then, of course, I guess maybe it was one of his coaches, or maybe he just thought to himself, fuck it, I'm not going to win this fight anyway. I just got 10-8'd. I'm just going to go out there and try to swing for the bleachers. That's the only way I'm getting it done. I'm not outpointing Holloway. I'm not going to take him down. I already had one of my takedowns stuffed. And that's what happened. And people are out here saying, beautiful moment. Like, the walkout was an incredible moment, all right? Beautiful walkout. I honestly felt a little bit emotional while watching him walk out, with everyone in the stands singing and him, screaming when he got into the octagon, just letting his emotions fly. I get it. It made for a cool fight, but ultimately, what moment did he have in that fight other than landing a couple of jabs and a couple of hooks in the first round and slugging for the fences as a last resort? He could have been slugging for the fences as a last resort against someone he would have beat. You know what I mean? That's the whole point that I'm trying to make. And people telling me that I'm, again, getting soft. Grow the fuck up. Grow up. At the end of the day, I want KOs. I want finishes. All right? I love the sport of fighting. I want violence. You should not take a guy like TKZ and match him up with Max Holloway. You know what I mean? You're taking a washed up old man and you're putting him against one of the most vicious strikers on the freaking planet that's in his prime that would be a champ if it weren't for Volkanovski. Goodness sakes. How do you not see anything wrong with this? You can still see Max Holloway destroy someone. Give Holloway Brian Ortega. Give Holloway some kind of other opponent and give TKZ Pillow Hands Mitchell. Okay? Give TKZ someone that he could at least slug it out with. And then maybe he can go out there and find a KO. I mean, with the way that he was looking in the first round, that would have been a possibility against someone like Bryce Mitchell. But yeah, for some reason, I'm soft because I'm not just on board with whatever the UFC does. And I think that the UFC should have integrity and actually stick to their fucking guns when they say, we love our legends, we respect our legends, but you're disposing of them like this. And listen, the reason they get away with this is because you're getting caught up in the walkout. You're getting caught up in the feels. Great. Okay? But you still have to recognize what really just happened. Okay? Is the TKZ going to be feeling that walkout 6 years from now? Hell no. Is he going to be feeling that KO? Yeah, he might be. He might be dealing with that KO, though. And that's the issue, man. You can talk about, it's an amazing moment on screen for me as a fan. Good for you, bro. We get a bunch of good fights as it is. Damn it, dude. We've seen him get slumped out before. We've seen him get... I'm just not going to be one of these fucking NPC fans that gets all over the moon because of how amazing of a moment it was. Bro, he was delusional, and I don't give a fuck if he asked for the fight. If he asked for Francis Ngannou, should we just give him Francis Ngannou? Dude, he asked for Francis. He's a fucking warrior. I don't care. If you expected anything less than a Max Holloway absolute domination, okay, then you're naive. You're naive. Straight up. So if Holloway didn't have a dominant performance, his stock would have went down. People would be saying, Holloway's boring now. Holloway's overrated as fuck. Couldn't even be to watch TKZ. Those would be the narratives. He doesn't want any of that going on, especially with what's happening in Hawaii. That guy's got a lot of pent-up rage, a lot of pent-up anger. And when he was walking out, I knew for goddamn sure this guy was going to go in there with some heat. And that's exactly what he did. This was a Max Holloway moment. This was no TKZ retirement party like a lot of people thought it was going to be. And, dude, again, I'm just getting a little bit frustrated with how people are just so fucking blinded by their fandom. You know what I mean? Like, I understand it. I am a fan of the sport. I absolutely love the sport. You don't need to give an old, washed-up man this kind of matchup that they can't win. You know what I mean? You could have had the same beautiful moment. You could have had the walkout. You could have had TK going out on his shield. You could have had TKZ knocking someone out and actually winning. Wake up. Why does it have to be TKZ needs to get KO'd stiff in order to cement a beautiful retirement party? It's gross, bro. It's straight up gross. Anyway, let's get on to the next one. Anthony Smith is back in the win column. He's back on top. You're probably expecting me to be a little bit salty, but that couldn't be any further from the truth. I am elated. I'm happy that Anthony Smith got his hand raised. I know I give this guy a harsh time. I know I criticize all of his delusional statements, but he got the job done in the most quintessential Lionheart Anthony Smith way possible. And let me show you guys my reaction to the decision, because I was freaking hyped. Oh, it's a split decision. They're going to give it the Spann, huh? Yeah! Let's go! Woo! Yeah! Big Smith in the house. The killer on the block. Nebraska Nightmare gets it done again. He dominated the first round. He had a ton of adversity. It looked like he was going to lose. I was getting scared in the second round. Oh, no. This is why I'm mentioning that this was a quintessential Anthony Smith moment. I was worried big time while watching the second round. I was getting hyped. Smith had an amazing first round. I was like, wow, he's actually looking good. This fight's actually on paper. They must have rolled out some, transparent sheet of paper on the freaking stage so that Smith could really bring in his abilities. And then he got his orbital bone broke, and it looked like it was all going to go out the window. Smith is on the ground. This is usually where he starts to wilt. He's wilted a couple of times in his last fights in the same position. He starts to crumble, and the ref starts thinking about stepping in, saving that big bruiser, Anthony Smith. And he fought through it. And then he went out there and outpointed Ryan Spann in the third. Fought through adversity, looked good early on, came back to win, a great comeback performance. What more could you ask for? And on top of that, he showed Ryan Spann respect. Hugged him at the start of the third round. Hugged him afterwards. Got on the mic. Didn't say anything crazy. Dude, how can you be hating on this man after that performance? That was a great performance from Anthony Smith. And the only people that seem to be a little bit upset about this outcome are the people that think it's a robbery. You couldn't be any more wrong, all right? Ryan Spann, for every one shot that he was landing in the third round, Anthony Smith would land 2 or 3. Straight up. I know Anthony Smith wasn't landing anything significant. Ryan Spann wasn't either. I think he got too focused on the orbital bone of Anthony Smith, and he wasn't focusing on the leg kicks. Here's the thing about the leg kicks. What are you doing if you're Ryan Spann and his team? His team should be ashamed of themselves for not making it a point to go out there and start hammering at the legs of Anthony Smith early. The blueprint to beat Smith is to kick his legs and to chop his legs down. Ryan Spann threw a total of 2 leg kicks in the first round, all coming in the final minute of the first. You know what I mean? It looked like leg kicks weren't even a part of his game plan, because when it was all said and done, there was 5 total leg kicks for Ryan Spann. One of the dumbest fighters in the UFC right now. He should be ashamed of himself. Anthony Smith, I genuinely think, aside from the fools that are calling this a robbery, I genuinely think that he just won over a ton of fans that had turned on him in the past for being a very delusional fighter. This was the quintessential Anthony Smith Lionheart performance. He lived up to his nickname. Because for a while, people were saying, honestly, man, I feel like Smith, he quits, but he almost doesn't quit. You know what I mean? Like, he kind of wilts when his body starts to fail him in these fights, and he rolls over and he gets stopped. There was none of that, because Smith had tons of adversity. And the reason I say this is a quintessential Anthony Smith performance, it's because it's exactly what you would expect if you're looking at his style on paper. He dominates someone early. He lands big blows, big hooks, countering hard. Then he goes through some adversity, gets his orbital bone broken, his face smashed open. He's getting beat up on the ground. He finds a way back up to his feet. He grits it out, and then he comes back and wins the third round. All right, so Anthony Smith got it done. He's going to be around. He's going to get a big boost in confidence, and he's going to have a whole lot to say. He's going to be coming back at the people that were giving him heat throughout the years, and he's going to be calling out the top dogs in that division and talking about himself like he's the next champion. So I cannot wait for future Anthony Smith moments. We're going to get a lot of them. I'm happy that he's around. I think he should fight maybe Nikita Krylov next. That would be a pretty good one. Both guys just beat Ryan Spann in their last outing, And Nikita Krylov still has to do some work before getting a title shot. On to the next one. Giga Chikadze versus Alex Caceres. I'm just going to say it how it is. I actually thought that the scorecard was good. I thought 30-27 made sense. Now, I picked Giga Chikadze to win this fight, and I picked him to beat the crap out of Alex Caceres. I was a little bit disappointed because he looked slower to me. This is the first thing I noticed. Yes, he's been out of the cage for a couple of years. Yes, there's a little bit of ring rust. Ring rust doesn't make you slow. It just makes you fight differently. It makes you fight a little more tentative. It makes you a little less confident to go. But your speed is always going to be there. You know what I mean? Unless you're severely injured. I'm guessing Giga Chikadze wasn't severely injured in this fight. But he was not the same guy that fought Edson Barboza back in the fall of 2021. He was only maybe 3% slower than that, but 3% makes a massive difference when you're going from a freak of nature destroying Edson Barboza to having a tit-tat back and forth battle with Alex Caceres. Now, here's the thing. I don't see many people calling this a robbery, but people saying 30-27 is crazy. Alex Caceres was not landing anything substantial on Giga Chikadze. Everything that he was landing was a grazing shot. Grazing, spinning back kick to the chest hair of Giga Chikadze. Grazing, spinning heel kick to the hairs on the chin of Giga Chikadze. Oh, and look at that. A hook glancing off the side of Giga's ear that didn't even hit his head, that just slipped past his ear. These were the shots that Alex Caceres was landing. Giga was landing harder shots, flush shots, and more of them. You know, and I could not stand the commentary early on. Bisbing and Paul Felder, whoever else was on the fucking commentary booth with them, they were talking about how because Caceres was smiling and his body language seemed more relaxed, he was clearly winning the fight. Oh, Caceres is smiling and he's definitely getting the better of him. Look at him, he's smiling, he's calm. Who gives a fuck? What about all the shots he's hitting flush on the chin? This is what I'm talking about. Giga Chikadze got that done. So as far as the decision is concerned, I thought the first round was a toss-up. The second round was Giga's. The third round was clearly Giga's. It's not a robbery. And the 30-27 is just. Okay, 100% it's just. Giga wasn't even that powerful in this fight, but it's like Alex Caceres was landing little pitter-pat air shots. A lot of his strikes were hitting air. But back to Giga. I'm a little bit sad and disappointed in how he looked because, again, he looked okay, but a prime Giga Chikadze is destroying Alex Caceres on the feet. It's not just the ring rust. He was lacking a little bit of that extra quick twitch ability, the extra speed, tiny bit more telegraphed, and he's just a different guy, and he needed that extra bit of speed to be able to have a chance to take out ranked opponents in an impressive fashion. And because Giga doesn't have a ton of power in his hands, he has power in his kicks, but not a lot of power in his hands, I don't see him having a chance to KO any of the ranked guys or to beat them. Because if you think about it like this, Alex Caceres, he's not that good. And even though this was a clear win for Giga Chikadze, it wasn't as dominant as he needed to make it look for me to believe that he can go in there and compete with someone like Yair Rodriguez. Do you know what Yair Rodriguez would do to Giga Chikadze right now? Yair would absolutely decimate him. Do you know what Ilia Topuria would do to Giga right now? He would decimate him. He would be willing to eat those shots of Giga Chikadze to land a couple of his own. Giga's got a pretty good chin. Despite him looking like the virgin from the fucking Chad and Virgin meme, he's actually got a pretty good chin on him. Ilia would smoke him. Evloev would probably take him down and smoke him. And for the people that picked Caceres to go out there and shoot a takedown or to sub Giga, they must have been pissed the entire fight because he didn't shoot a single takedown on Giga Chikadze. He was just getting hyped up from the commentary booth. You know, he heard Bisbing saying he was winning, and he was probably just content with that. But we still don't know how Giga's takedown defense is going to hold up. And there's a chance that Giga, you know, you talked about how he had improved a lot on the mic after he freaking flipped out and said, Giga's back. Fuck all of y'all. You know, he flipped out and said that this is an improved Giga Chikadze. I'm guessing his takedown defense is improved, and maybe he was just fighting a little bit patient early on because he was expecting Alex Caceres to grapple. Because to be fair, he did talk about Caceres not wanting to strike with him going into this fight. And he was wrong. Caceres stood up with him the entire time. And Giga Chikadze seemed to be standing a little bit wider with his legs. He had a wider base this time. And I think that might have been him just preparing for a takedown threat. So there's always a chance that the threat of the takedown made him fight a little bit differently, but the threat of the takedown is going to be there for every single one of his next fights that are going to be a higher ranked opponent that actually has a chance to mix it up. I don't see Giga beating anyone that's that good in the division anymore after this performance. So this is kind of the conclusion that I'm getting to. I was really hoping to see the same Giga Chikadze that we saw against Barboza. I know ring rust is a thing. Ring rust does not make you 3-4% slower. It just doesn't. And again, a minor drop-off in speed makes a huge difference for a guy that doesn't have that crazy power to begin with, that relies on the quick twitch ability. So he's still good, but Caceres is like also 35, and he's kind of a freaking journeyman in his own right as well. And I don't know. I would have liked to see something a little bit more dominant, but I'm excited for Giga's next fight. Some people were saying maybe he should fight Holloway. No way. He just beat Alex Caceres, who's lucky to be ranked to begin with. All right. And before that, he got smoked by Calvin Kattar, who got smoked by Max Holloway. So I think we should maybe do Giga Chikadze versus the winner of Bryce Mitchell and Dan Ige. That's a fight that I would like to see. I'm actually going to be picking Bryce Mitchell, so it'd be good. Can Bryce hang with a high-level striker on the feet like Giga? He has to prove that again, because Ige is a pretty good striker. He's not the same guy as Giga. And can Ige deal with the kicking range of Giga Chikadze? That's the fight that I want to see next. Let's move on to the next fight. Rinya Nakamura, Japan's Phenom, versus Fernie Garcia. I was impressed with Rinya Nakamura, okay? But I was more sad while watching this fight because I just looked at the facial expression of Fernie Garcia, and that was a man that basically knew that his career was coming to a close. And he looked desperate in there. He was just doing everything in his power to not get finished. But you could see a defeated man when you looked into his eyes. You could see the expression of someone that knows they're going to get cut after this. So rest in peace to Fernie Garcia's career. That's definitely a rough one. He got absolutely mogged and dominated in the grappling. Did he get damaged that much? No. But you're never going to beat Rinya Nakamura, and there was absolutely no success that he had in this fight whatsoever. No success at all for Fernie Garcia. Rinya Nakamura is really good. He's quick twitch on the feet. He's obviously a really strong and heavily muscled guy, and I was commenting on his physique early on in the fight. I'm like, bro, this guy has a really good build for the bantamweight division. He's shredded. He's got really big legs. The thing that I was impressed with the most were his takedown entries, the double legs that he was shooting. They looked so clean. This guy has some of the best takedowns I've seen in the bantamweight division. You know what I mean? And we already know he's a pretty good striker. Is he an extremely high-level striker for someone that's 27, 28? Not really, but he's good enough to be in the mix. You know what I mean? He's good enough to be someone that's eventually going to crack the rankings. And if he just continues to improve on his submission game, this guy is going to be a monster, because even though Fernie Garcia didn't get subbed, you know, there were a lot of close attempts there. And not only close attempts, every single second in this fight was dominant for Rinya Nakamura when it hit the mat. Like, he was in north-south, he was in side control, transitioning into different spots seamlessly. So I thought it was a really good performance. Still needs to work on his ability to hurt people badly on the ground. But as far as his ability to transition, his ability to get people to the ground, his striking, it all looked good for the most part. So I'm really excited to see more of Rinya Nakamura. RIP to the career of Fernie Garcia. Blanchfield versus Santos. That fight absolutely sucked, man. And this is the thing. It seems that most of these WMMA fights that I get hyped for end up being a stinky, stinky snooze fest. And I'm just going to say this right now, because some of you guys are not going to like this. I couldn't even watch Zhang Wei Li and Amanda Lemos past the second round. That was boring as hell too. Because here's the thing. Even when it's somewhat dominant, when you know the outcome and you know there's not going to be a finish, it's just a little bit boring. And this was a competitive fight, 100%. This was actually competitive. Taila Santos probably won the first round. I looked at it as a battle of attrition. Who was going to outlast the other person? It was Erin Blanchfield that ultimately had the better cardio, that was ultimately out there imposing her will. I picked her to win because she's just going to go out there, not care about the grappling accolades or the high-level grappling of Santos, and just shoot takedowns no matter what and clinch her up against the fence no matter what. But it was still super boring to watch. I honestly felt like falling asleep. I had to immediately refill a big cup of coffee after watching this one. And even Rinya Nakamura and Fernie Garcia was 10 times more entertaining, and that wasn't anything special. You know what I mean? It was just more of like an open workout showcase for Rinya Nakamura to show all of his flashy techniques and skills. Erin Blanchfield had herself a really stinky, boring performance. But here's the thing about Erin Blanchfield. This is a nightmare matchup for her. It's a tough woman in Taila Santos that's going to be able to stuff the takedowns and make it difficult for her to grapple, that has some pop in her hands, that's shredded, that's big. You already know how WMMA works, guys. Erin Blanchfield's going to have like one more tough matchup after this against Valentina or Grasso. Then she's going to fight like fucking Molly McCann for a title shot, for a title defense. Then she's going to fight Joanne Wood. Joanne Wood part 2. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to see the rematch of the century. Erin Blanchfield versus Molly McCann. You know, and that's going to be your title fight. That's how these divisions work. There are a couple of monsters here and there, and for the most part, there's, you know, your freaking Jessica Eyes that are going to be in the mix. So we are going to see some dominations from Erin Blanchfield in the future. I'm not willing to sit here and call her a boring fighter. It's just a tough matchup. She did what she needed to do. I didn't enjoy watching it. You don't have to enjoy every fight. You don't have to enjoy every fight. That's just happened to be one that I didn't fucking like, you know? But let's get on to the next one. Junior Tafa versus Parker Porter. I was actually impressed. Now, Parker Porter is going to make an appearance in my Fighters That Had an Aura of Invincibility video that I'm going to put out in a few weeks because we know he's a legend of the game. But Parker Porter should legitimately be fighting at middleweight. He's been around for 10 plus years, way more than 10 plus years, it seems. He's literally like a dinosaur of the heavyweight division that has no ability to finish you whatsoever. It took him his entire career to get a finish last March. His first finish came last March. Junior Tafa actually looked like a decent heavyweight striker. And it wasn't just the fact that he KO'd Parker Porter, because I'm just going to say this right now. If you can put away Parker Porter in the first round, you're at least somewhat of a decent heavyweight to begin with. I don't think Muhammad Usman is knocking out Parker Porter like that in the first round. I'll just tell you that much. Junior Tafa is a former Glory kickboxing heavyweight, and that was on display when he was throwing knees in the clinch. He was bringing up his knee all the way to the chinny chin chin of Parker Porter. And that's some stuff that you don't really see at heavyweight. I know that that's like not that crazy to talk about. Oh, he landed a knee in the clinch. Big deal. It's a heavyweight, Junior Tafa, doing it. So it's something that I have to give him props for. This is a guy that has some decent striking for a heavyweight. And I was impressed. And he mopped the floor with Parker Porter. So really good win. He imposed his will. He proved that he's not just a guy that popped out of the apex. He, you know, avenged himself and basically came back off of losing to Usman. And now he looks good. So I think that Junior Tafa has a good future in the heavyweight division. Him and his brother are going to be pretty good in that division. I think they are going to become ranked because guys like Parker Porter have been in the mix before. So you already know both of these guys are going to get ranked. It's going to take another 10 years to actually have all ranked heavyweights be decent. You know what I mean? So overall, guys, I thought the card was great. I thought it was excellent. I know European fans were in my stream earlier saying, now you know our pain. Now you know our pain. What pain? I had a great night of sleep and I woke up to some fights. As I said, I felt like a kid waking up on Christmas morning. It was great. It is not even 1 p.m. here on the East Coast. I feel fucking fantastic. I actually have energy when I'm breaking down what just happened on this card. So I'm doing well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.
What's up, guys? It's Lucas Tracy MMA, and I'm wondering if you're trying to look like Yoel Romero. Well, if you don't have his genetics, that's impossible. But I could at least help you get halfway there with my Ultimate Lifting program, and if you're a beginner, my Novice Lifting program. These are programs that I've used my 9 years of experience in the gym to make so that you can put on as much muscle as possible in as little amount of time as possible. And it'll also give you a variety of workouts so that you never get tired of the gym. So if you're interested, click the link in my description. And for a discount, use code MMA for 30% off.